Good afternoon, everyone. It's Chat with Mack. Uh, we're exhausted. We are very tired. I don't know if you've been keeping up with everything that's been going on here in Houston, but boy, what a week. We're happy that we made it through and we can come to you and do this. So, Nadeem, how are you, sir?
Oh, great. So yeah, I mean it's been quite an experience. I think Yuri came down from New York and he brought his weather with him.
Oh man, yeah, that's
But the good thing is that most of our customers, they were without power for a while, but customers that had their infrastructure in the cloud were not impacted. They
yep,
kept working like they normally would. Some of the customers who had on-prem stuff, they were impacted. They had
yeah.
to, start up all the systems again. I would say about maybe around 5% of customers had some issues with some equipment failing. These are usually the non-contract type customers where they call us when they need some support. And
hmm
things like switches, routers, which were just getting very old,
Yeah.
and there's no process in place to replace them because we don't keep track of that equipment if it's a break fix customer. We only do that for fixed cost outsourcing customers,
Yeah.
and how our TAM role and the VCIO role work together to get all the equipment, make sure it is up to date. So yeah, some customers had some pain, but overall, I think everything went pretty good.
hmm
It was a good test for disaster recovery systems, and yeah, most customer, well, everybody on the FCO, the fixed cost outsourcing, didn't have any issues, and even with on-prem equipment, they didn't have any issues just because their equipment is newer and there's no issues. I know a couple of customers, they had some equipment. The switches that we use they come with a lifetime warranty, so there were some older switches that the power supplies died because
hmm
I think the UPSs ran so low and there were some spikes that went through when the power supply died. So but those are getting replaced under warranty, no issues there. So but yeah, overall I think it was pretty good. It was interesting to drive out to one of the customer sites where they needed they're not on fixed cost outsourcing, but they asked me out there, and when I went out, on site, uh, I mean, so normally we reserve this kind of stuff for the technology alignment manager role, but when I go on site, I try to look at all different things, and I saw the cabling was a mess. It was a rat mess. Nothing was labeled, and I was like, "Who the hell did this?" And I'm friends with the owner. I've known them for over 20 years now. So I was like, "Who the hell did this?" And he says, "Oh yeah, we have a couple of guys who do the cabling." And I'm like, "No, they don't do cabling. This is not what I call cabling. I mean, so these guys would just run it and run it over the ceiling, over the wall, and crimp it, and that's it. I mean, there's no labeling, there's nothing." So I told him, look, you're growing. As you grow, these problems that this cabling is causing is going to exponentially grow with you.
Yeah.
So he understood that. So he wanted somebody to come in and just revamp his cabling because it's such a mess. And he says, I want it done according to standards. I want it done professionally the way you would want it done. And I'm like, yeah, and normally that's what we do under the TAM and the VCIO role, but in this case, it's one of those situations that kind of didn't get the attention it deserved because this customer is not on fixed cost outsourcing.
Right.
And he's not in the cloud. He's one of those guys who believes that if he, that he needs to be able to touch and see the equipment that he has. He wants to be able to touch it. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. So,
Oh
uh,
Lord.
yeah, he's one of those. But you live and learn. He did finally decide that he's going to move his phone system into the cloud, and then he also said that next week we need to talk about moving his servers into the cloud,
Awesome.
and that will
Awesome.
take care of a lot of these issues. But yeah, but overall, I mean, it's been interesting. I've been running on generator for the last week. Last night, water came back on, which I don't know if it was like 3 or 4 days without water. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and the good thing is, we have a pond in the back, so we were using the pond to fill up buckets, to flush toilets and stuff, and
Yeah.
and it was an interesting experience. But I hear you had some issues over there, Mac.
Issues, my lord. Man, yeah, it's my first time experiencing this. I didn't know what to really expect, but yeah, I didn't get the power on till late yesterday. Water came on this morning, and then my pipes bursted. So
Promptly, yep.
yeah, promptly, yep. So like I said, it was the cycle. I was waiting on it to happen. It's happened, so I'm like, okay, that's the last thing that's gonna go that's gonna go wrong. So
So, ladies and gentlemen, Mac here is from Chicago, and he's used to the cold, and now he knows that Houston is not prepared for cold,
buddy,
and we don't get this kind of weather. I mean, this is like what, once in a decade type deal.
yeah,
We don't get this very often. Actually, I think it's in my lifetime, it's a first in Houston that I've seen this much snow.
really.
Yeah, I've never seen this much snow before in Houston. I mean, I've seen it in other areas, but not in Houston.
Hmm.
So the entire infrastructure is just not designed for that cold. Fortunately, I didn't have any pipes burst, and now we're into warmer weather, so I think it's going to be okay.
Awesome,
But
awesome.
yeah. So Mac, continuing on our conversation from last time,
Yeah,
one of the things that I'm seeing is people saying, "Oh no, but Apple products are expensive." Now, first of all, everyone, let me tell you this: we do not supply Apple products. We don't sell Apple products. We are not an Apple reseller. We are a PC/x86 machine reseller. Several different companies. We use HP, we use Lenovo, Dell, IBM, and Microsoft, of course. So we are a reseller for those kinds of things. But here's what I got to tell you: people say Apple products are overpriced. Um, they're not overpriced for what they are. So, a lot of times you'll see, this kid on YouTube comparing his, Mac to a PC and saying, oh, I can get a 3 gigahertz CPU PC for X amount of dollars, and my Mac is only so many gigahertz, and it's, so much more. What this kid isn't realizing is that there's more to than just the CPU megahertz or gigahertz,
right.
CPU frequency. And that's what Apple focuses on. Apple's focus is not on how fast, their focus is not on who can pee the farthest. Their focus is more on the overall experience. Let me put it that way. So the overall experience is many different things. You can have a very fast CPU, but a stupidly slow hard drive that just destroys your experience. So what Apple focuses on is they want to make sure that there's a good CPU in there, maybe not the top of the line, but a good enough CPU. They're going to make sure that the front side bus is faster, and most Apple Macs and MacBooks will have faster front side buses compared to their PC counterparts. And then you want to look at they want to use SSD drives, and they don't want to use Apple, I think, is the first company who decided they're not going to use SSD drive and just connect it to a SATA connector that a lot of other companies were doing. They said, no, we're gonna connect the SATA drive, I mean the SSD drive directly to the bus, so it's faster performance. And those little things, when you combine them together, they make the overall experience better. And the overall experience is, if you are scrolling on a web page on a Mac or a MacBook, it doesn't matter if that Mac is 5 or 6 years old, it is smooth scrolling.
Yeah,
Try doing that on a 5-year-old PC. Ain't gonna
yeah.
happen. And my personal experience is a PC has never lasted me more than 2 years. Uh, a MacBook, I have had a 2011 MacBook for more than 5 years, and it was still good when I sold it to somebody. So
Wow.
that's why I'm sold on Apple. most other companies compete on price. Apple says we're not going to compete on price. This is going to be the price. We're going to make the experience better, and I think that makes a big difference. So,
Mm,
like if you're launching into space, going to Mars, do you really want to be on a ship that's designed by the lowest bidder?
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
So that's so in my opinion, no, Apple products are not overpriced when compared to PC. You get what you pay for, and there's a lot of different things that go into Apple products that make them different, and they cost more. Not to say that Apple has a high profitability. Apple has a high profitability because they will squeeze their vendors. I mean, they will squeeze their vendors. They will set their own prices on equipment because they're such a large volume buyer. They will set their prices, and now their suppliers have to compete to come up with that price, or they go to somebody else. Um, I mean, and then on top of that, the process at Apple is to optimize their supply chain, and that's where Tim comes in from. He's a supply chain guru. I mean, he's one of those guys who's easygoing. He won't like call you out, but he remembers. so
And we're
so
talking
he's one of
about
those
Tim
guys
Cook,
who
correct?
do what?
We're talking about Tim Cook, correct?
Yes, yeah, Tim Cook, yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, but he is a master when it comes to supply chain and optimizing it. And the more he can optimize the supply chain, the more profitability for Apple as a whole. So that's what my thoughts are about Apple products. I don't want to say they're overpriced. The experience, once you get used to the Apple product, you really can't get it anywhere else. It's
So,
hard to get anywhere else.
okay. So let me ask you about that. A little bit. So we kind of talked about that. As it pertains to Microsoft and their experience, and Apple and their experience. And you see a lot of companies, they will opt for, of course, the Apple product because of the usability, and I hate to say dummy proof. It's so mean to say, but for what it is, Apple products are kind of dummy proof. Anyone can use
Well,
them.
not entirely. So, and I've seen that before where I wouldn't say they're dummy proof. I mean, a lot of times we get a support call because some user who's never, who doesn't have any IT experience, and they go out and buy a Mac, and then they're like, "How do I do this?" And it's like, "Well, go ahead and install this app." Or, "How do I do that?" And it's like, "Well, you bought an Apple product and you don't know how to install an app." Or we might say something as simple as, well, I need to ping, can you ping your gateway? Or, this is the command, when we give them the command, they're like, what do I do with this command? They don't even know what a terminal is. And they go buy an Apple product, and then they're completely lost. What Apple does is it allows you to do your stuff faster with all the
Mm,
gestures. And so once you get used to that, like, when I go to my Mac, it's such a delightful experience. I know the gestures. I can just go through stuff, and it's not jittery, or kind of like, skip, skip, skip. It's not like that. It's smooth. And when I come to my PC, and even a very recent Surface, a lot of times I get to a web page and I'm scrolling, and it's kind of stuttering, and it's like, what is this? It's just not a good experience. But I wouldn't say they're dummy proof, and I wouldn't say Apple OS 10, Mac OS, or iOS, they are virus or hack proof. They're not.
now,
But
hasn't that been Apple's calling card up until this point, that Apple products were a little less likely to get hacked or catch viruses? I
yeah,
always heard
yeah.
that.
So they are less likely, and there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one is, it's based off of BSD, which is not a very popular OS out there. So just the attack surface is so small that the bad guys don't want to focus on it because it's such a small surface area. The bad guys want to focus on Windows, which everybody has Windows, right? So that's a
Yeah.
much larger surface area. The other thing, it's an open source OS that Mac OS is based on. So with open source, everybody has access to the source. So the more eyes you have on the source, the more problems you can see. I mean, there's been situations where a high-end guy who spent all their life creating drivers missed something simple and created a vulnerability in a driver that some kid working in their parents basement found that flaw. And the good thing is that they were able to see that flaw and they were able to report it, and then they were able to create a fix for it, and all that rolled back into the chain. And that's why the open source concept just makes for secure code. Security by obscurity never works. That's what all closed source systems are.
Mm,
They're thinking, oh, if we just don't let this code leak out, then nobody will know that there is this vulnerability and we don't have to fix it. And, because why don't we want to fix it? Because we have to spend money to fix it. So let's just hide it so nobody will see it. Well, that never works. Security by obscurity never works. So that's why Apple devices, Mac OS and iOS, are less prone to attacks or hacks and those kind of things.
gotcha. That's good to know. That's
Yeah.
good to know.
But it's at the end of the day, to me, like I tell everybody, it really in this day and age, it really doesn't matter if you use Windows, Linux, Mac OS, whatever you use, they all will accomplish pretty much what the other OSs can accomplish. The only difference is use something that makes you most productive. So if you are familiar with a certain OS, you can do most in a certain OS, just use that. Don't worry about it. And that's what I do. I mean, I work with Windows, Linux, Mac OS, iOS, Android. I mean, all kinds of systems. The only thing I don't have a lot of experience in with is Chrome OS. So I don't have a lot of experience with Chrome. And it's like, why?
I was gonna say I don't see a lot of people. Now I do use Chrome quite a bit. Actually, my God, I use Chrome just about all the time.
So you're talking
Um,
about the Chrome browser, right?
that's correct, not the OS. Okay, that's two different.
Yeah. So yeah, the Chrome OS is totally different. So as far as the browser goes, everybody using Microsoft Edge is really using Chrome. It is Chrome. I mean,
We talked about that. I think on one of we're gonna need to talk about that at some point because I remember the first time he told me that, and I was like, I wanted to, we were busy, but you were like, yeah, you can use if you're using Chrome, Microsoft Edge is the exact same thing, and I don't know where the apprehension is for me. I don't know if it's more of a familiarity thing for me because I haven't switched over to Edge completely. But you said that, and I was like, man, and they need to kind of talk about that a little bit more because I don't think people know that.
yeah, one of these days maybe we'll talk about it. But here's an interesting thought: try installing a Chrome extension in Microsoft Edge browser. Pretty much all Chrome extensions will install under Edge because it is really just Chrome.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good
yeah.
to know.
So, but anyway, so that's really short today,
Yep.
and I want to keep it short. With all the weather, I know everybody has to get back to what they were doing and clean up and all that. So Mac, I hope you get all your pipes and everything fixed and everything goes back to normal. But try to get some rest.
Yeah, I'm this weekend. It's a sleepathon. I mean, after this week, I don't know how everybody else did. I could not sleep for the life of me. So yeah, I'm gonna get some rest.
So yeah, everybody, hopefully everybody stays safe. If you want, if you didn't, or if you need help or anything like that, feel free to reach out. We have some resources. We have people. We have vehicles. We can provide some help. We don't have meat, and we don't have
No,
eggs.
we don't have meat. We don't have eggs. Bread, but we got everything else.
So everybody have a good day and be safe out there. Mac, I'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. Everybody have a good one.